Hi everyone. I'm not 100%. I actually said that the type might not exist yet. I think that's a massively bold claim, but you guys can let me know. So tonight, basically, instead of just talking about what I kind of do day to day, I wanted to talk more about what I do, which I kind of see more as like my art and my hobby. I actually run a studio in Hackney Downs, and we're about a team of 4 to 5 people. We work with sort of really big, a lot bigger clients, so people like Diesel, Reebok, Nike, those sorts of people, and usually that's really more of the day-to-day stuff. So it's amazing work. It still is really, really fun and exciting, and it's always really sort of art and sort of concept-driven, but I suppose my poster work and what I do for the music industry and my EP work is something that I really care about and I feel is more expressive and kind of showcases more of my actual genuine style. And it also allows me to experiment loads with typography. So first of all, I'm just going to show you a quick video that kind of recaps some of my posters and some of the work that's in the book, and then I'm going to talk you through how I sort of work on stuff and how I created the book. So basically, I kind of use this process in everything that I do, and it does funnel into my more sort of corporate work, but it also does funnel into the way that I create posters, the way I create my art. And it's basically, I coined it the art of seeing, which is basically taken from 2 titles, one which is Ways of Seeing by John Berger, who's a famous art critic, and the second, Art as Design, from Bruno Munari, who is a famous Italian artist and graphic designer. And I have 2 books that I give to all my interns who come into the studio, and I tell them they have to go away and read them, and it's usually these 2 books because they just really sort of adapted my way of thinking, really allowed me to be more conceptual and really start to think a little bit more about everything that I did. So step number 1 is pause. For me, an object is alive. This cigarette, this matchbox, contains a secret life much more intense than that of most humans. I see a tree, I get a shock, as if it were something breathing, talking. A tree, too, is something human. And this was a quote by Jean Miro. And what I love about this is it just allows us to really appreciate and be mindful about the day-to-day things that we see, something that we might take for granted, like an amazing tree that's been growing for like 300 years. You might walk past that and just think, I've seen this every day, it doesn't surprise me anymore. But if you really stop and think about it, it's absolutely amazing that this thing exists. It's absolutely amazing what that tree has seen and everything that it's been through. So I try to put this approach into how I create concepts or how I come up with concepts. And quite a nice sort of example of this is to think about a leaf and how I might explain a leaf to someone who's never seen it before. So these are some sort of descriptive words. So green, it's curved and it's also sharp, it's big and it's small, it's vibrant, it's got these connected lines running through it, which are slightly lighter in color, it's textured, grows off a diagonal long thing, bendy, light in weight. So this is, if we were to say to that person, take these descriptive words and now create something out of them, create an image, create a poster, whatever, concept, what might that look like? It could look like this. We've got the curves, we've got the sharp edges, we've got the lines that are running through it that are slightly lighter. It's growing off this diagonal long thing, it's vibrant. could also look like this. Again, it's green, it's curved, it's sharp, it's got these lines in the middle that are slightly lighter in color. It grows off a diagonal long thing. Or it might also look like this. And again, it has all the same attributes. Step number 2 is this idea of reflecting. Everything you can imagine is real. This was a Pablo Picasso quote. And what I love about this quote is that it allows you to really see the potential that something can have. So if you are going to create this piece of work, what might that look like? How can you conceptualize it? And how can you really think about it to create something new, or even just something a bit silly? A great example of this is Bruno Munari and his forks. And he created this series of, he used to do it with everything. He'd see everything and kind of characterize it, give it a personality, make it into something new, make it into a person, give it this sort of human touch. And what he did was he created these hand gestures out of all the spikes of the forks. And by doing that, he created little characters for each of these forks. And I think that's, again, something that I try to put into whatever I do with my typography or with my illustration, is I always try to make it feel a bit charismatic or like a personality or like something is trying to shine through from it. So just showing how we might use this or how we can actually create this in the studio. Taking a flower and then thinking about how that flower can evolve into lots of different things. So using the petals, using the stalk, using the leaves, and how it can then be recreated into a whole suite of different things. How we can reimagine this object that we see every day. So we've got a worm, a frog, caterpillar, dragonfly, and butterfly. And I'm sure you could keep going and do it forever. Step 3 is appreciate. And this is really after you've used those first 2 steps, let's take a look back and really think about what we've created and how it feels and how it looks and does it work. And I think that this quote by Bruno Munari is probably my favorite because it really feels like it doesn't really matter what other people think. It doesn't need to be what's happening in graphic design right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be abiding to the rules that are present in graphic design right now. If you like it and you truly believe in what you've created, then it's something that is amazing. A thing is not beautiful because it is beautiful, as the he-frog said to the she-frog. It is beautiful because one likes it. And I just think this is this idea of, after going through those steps, taking a step back, reevaluating, and thinking, do I love it or have I created this for someone else? And that, I think, is the core essence of creating something that's amazing. So now I want to talk to you a wee bit about how I, this microphone is actually really quite high. I'm too short. Okay, so how I create my posters. And I'd say I want to just take you through a couple of the, I suppose, the layers that go into it. So the first one is always this idea of personification of type. So thinking about typography, thinking about it if it was a little person or if it was a character or if it was something that was actually living and breathing. How can you showcase that in the way that you use typography? How can you showcase that in the way that you draw it? So this is just something like silly things I sometimes do in my sketchbook, and it's just thinking about characters and what they might be if they were human or if they had a characteristic. So this idea of this big-bellied bee, it's cheerful. The boring bee, because it just looks like a normal one. The idea of the dancing bee, it looks like it's pirouetting. The slow bee, it looks like it's almost like sliming along like a little snail. The fancy bee, and the bouncing bee. And then again, just showcasing that across like different sort of different letters and how you can sort of personify this typography, and then how this comes through in the poster work. So for instance, with this one for Subclub, just by slanting the typography a little bit and creating this juxtaposition between the two type forms, it creates this idea of fast movement. It kind of feels like the rhythm of the music. It creates this build-up, making Derek Carter into an Easter bunny. Having this sort of powder up Sammy and lots of different positions, creating this bouncing feel, this sort of interactive feel, building up typography, allowing it to like overflow, and then just sort of giving characters these lovely little characteristics and personalities and making them look like they're dancing. Number 2, this idea of layers. So how you can use type to sort of build up and create layers if you might not necessarily have illustration on the photograph, on the poster. And again, just showcasing how I've done this in like my sketchbook. So silly little things, for instance, just like making like patterns out of the T's all aligned or the A's all aligned, or trying to draw type with just one line rather than taking the pen off the page. And then how that might manifest into my actual poster design. So this idea of building up, this idea of building up through the use of color, how you could position typography so that it feels like it's sitting on top of each other, it's building on top of each other. Creating, again, these sort of elongated and built up type, and then having the juxtaposition of that against really, really thick color blocks. Just something as simple as, again, just building up with this color, using these blocks, showcasing that with pattern and color, and then how we might use that if we just use typography, and just by something simple, like just turning around the flyer and multiplying it across a poster and using it in lots of different ways on the poster. And then the third step is this idea of charisma. And I think that this is one of the main things I try to use and showcase in all my poster work. And it's something more like I'm trying to speak to the person that's seeing it. So I often do like silly things where I'll put all the information on the poster actually quite small so that the person has to go up to the poster and interact with it and be drawn in initially by the bold sort of type or the pattern or the illustration or the character, that whatever has been used on it. And then they have to go up and actually interact with this piece of art and really focus on it and spend a little bit of time with it in order to get more information out of it. And then showcasing that, how that sort of comes about in my sort of sketchbook work. And I love sort of working with cartoons and building up a sense of human and character within everything that I do. Silly little things like playing with tape and how that can then create typography. Drawing faces onto typography to give it more of a humanist feel, and then how that showcases in the poster work and how we can build that into the poster work. So one of my longest running poster sort of collaborations or poster jobs has been with Axe on Wax, and it's this underground nightclub night that's run in London, and he just loves cartoons. So anything that we do for cartoon he just loves it. So it's an amazing sort of application of me being able to use my illustration style and my typography and also put it and use it into one, and it's kind of created this amazing sort of book now that we have on sale tonight with a section for Axe on Wax. It's nearly 100 pages long, so it's absolutely massive. And just showcasing how that charisma comes through these posters, whether it's this really bold typography, combining that with cartoon and combining that with like this sort of illustrated element, handwritten type. I'm like a massive fan of using multiple typefaces on a poster, hand drawing lots of different typefaces and using it on a poster. Using that again with some illustration. So Tango is actually a football game that they play in Italy, and they use this special type of football, and it looks like this, basically. And I was trying to think about how I could create this football into a character. So by using the duplication of the two and building it into this lovely little butterfly thing that's flying into the flower. And I think what I try to do is just make something a bit silly also with whatever I'm working on or however I'm producing something, and give it that sort of edge of color. I'm never like too scared to use color. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy drawing up my own typography, and then trying to apply that actually into a digital realm is quite interesting, taking it from the sketchbook and pulling it into a computer. Showcasing this again on another one of the Axe on Wax posters. How can we sort of create this feel of like this duck's actually moving, it's alive, it's creating this poster in real time. And then how that charisma comes through in the typography and the application of typography, and how we can use color to enhance that. So it almost feels like these sort of one-stop shop of all these bits and bobs that have come together to create this massive visual that is essentially showcasing you what's going to be available on that night in this club. All these different artists, all these different DJs coming together with super eclectic styles and tastes in one venue. And again, using build-up of color and how that can be produced to create something that feels like it's showcasing this diversity, showcasing music and all the different people that go to music and feel different ways when they're in the nightclub. And just by doing something simple as using color and diversifying that across the poster, how it creates this sort of dynamic between the viewer and the poster and actually the night that they end up going to. And then finally, I wanted to finish on the poster that I did for my book. So thank you very much to It's Nice That for this sort of prime advertising slot, but we've made a book in the studio, and it showcases all the EP and poster work that I have done in 2018. It's 324 pages long, it's got 19 sections, and it heroes sort of and celebrates the design process by showcasing the used and the unused designs that I've sent out to clients. So it's super interesting in the sense that it's not necessarily just the work that the client chose, it's everything that's come out of my sketchbook and how that's evolved into the final product. And this was the result. I just want to finish on my 3 steps, which is pause, reflect, and appreciate. Thank you very much.